Well, hey, Vision. Whew, man, a short transition video. They're kind of like a NASCAR pit team up here. How quickly did they get everything up? Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. We are continuing our Game Changer series. If you're here in person or the first service, we ran it on Facebook Live. And I want to let you guys know that on our Facebook Live, we get people, of course, watching it at home if they're sick, or some people who are at work and can't come on Sundays. We got people on the West Coast watching it. That's like, 6:30 in the morning. We had people today watching in Europe and in South Africa. Wow. So it was like all over, man. That's what visionaries are doing, I guess, in Germany and all kinds of places. It's so fun. So if you're new with us, if you missed last week, this new series, Game Changers, which I'm excited about, of course, because we got sports, we got jerseys. I got back playing basketball Friday morning, and man, my niece told me that was a game changer by the end of the day. And oh man, I was feeling it. But I love the concept that a catalyst can change things. We talked last week about game changer, that truly a game changer in a relationship, in a story, in a game, in mentally. A game changer simply is a catalyst that can drastically or dramatically change things. And that excites me because I want things to change. I want things to get better and better. I want game changers in my life. We talked last week about Jesus as the ultimate game changer. Now we're going to unpack for 4 weeks, 4 different habits that we could have in our life that could be game changers. And let me tell you, the one we're talking about today, I totally see it working at our church. It is happening at our church, and you're going to see proof of it actually during the service today. So this concept of game changers, and today the specific topic of inviting is where we're going. Because our bottom line, that God wants us to invest in people's lives and invite them to come and hear about Jesus. Invest and invite. So repeat after me. Invest. Invite. Okay, that's the way we do it. That's the way we get people here. It ties in with our mission. If you know, our mission is to lead people to Christ and to help them live out God's vision for their life. That's an exciting thing. And we say all the time that maybe we lead people to Christ for the first time, but the reality is a lot of times each of us need to be led back to Christ. Not that we lose our salvation, but that we kind of get dry. Honestly, we get far from God, or we get bitter, and we say, man, I do need to be led back to Him. So when we take that mission and put it together with that strategy of investing and inviting, we see God do amazing things. Now, it's actually one of our 4 core habits. When you walk in our lobby, you see that really outside of your personal walk with God, we think here at Vision, we encourage you to have 4 core habits, and one of them is to invite. It's really simple. We don't make it complicated. We just say that found people, they find people. That literally, if we were lost on our spiritual journey and got found, now God wants to use us to find other people. I love that. And this is important because every person who's ever lived has been at some point spiritually paralyzed, literally separated from God in a way that we couldn't move forward. We didn't even realize it at the time maybe, but for eternity we were dead. But even daily in our struggles, we were alone, we were dead, we were paralyzed. God says it doesn't have to be like that. We look today in Luke chapter 5 to see what Jesus did about this. So if you got your Bible or your phone, your iPad, we'll have it on the screen as well. But let me paint this picture for you about Luke chapter 5. And this is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. It's like one of my top 5. So if you're ever in a spot, you say, man, I don't know where to read in the Bible today. I don't know what to read. I'm kind of dry. Go to Luke chapter 5. I love how in Luke chapter 5, we see Jesus really kind of launching his ministry. It's early on in his ministry, and he's picking out the guys who are going to be on his team. In Luke 4, we've seen him already building habits where he's spending time on his own in prayer, and it's really a habit that we should take his model from. In Luke chapter 5, it starts off with a story that we're not going to spend much time on today, but I'm giving you the background, that Jesus was looking out in the water, and there's some fishermen out there. And the other night, I was out at Bit of Hope, where Meg runs the place, my wife Meg, and I'm watching the sunset, and there's a pond out there. So I'm thinking, okay, about these fishermen. These guys who their job was to go out and fish. So they go out at night, they cast the nets, they try to catch a bunch of fish, and one night in particular, they didn't catch any. To them, it's a terrible night. But God knew something else was happening in that. That in that time, that Jesus was probably watching that, seen it all take place. And in that story in Luke 5, we see Jesus come on the scene and do some miraculous things with fish that stir something in these men to want to follow Jesus. You talk about a game changer, it was a huge game changer in their life. So Jesus, in that story, there's miracles that happen, and then right after that, he heals a leper, which that in itself is a miracle. That's a deadly disease, terrible disease, he heals. So it sets the tone for the next story in Luke 5. Now this story, it could happen on Sunday here, that people left this story saying, we have seen remarkable things today. I mean, don't you, when you come to Vision on Sunday morning, want to see remarkable things? I do. I don't just come in here to say, man, let's just do another Sunday. Let's just punch a clock. I mean, I want to see remarkable things. So in this story, when people leave it and they walk off and you read in the verses, it says, they said, we have seen remarkable things today. I want to know what they saw. So instead of me just telling you or just reading it, I want you to hear from somebody who maybe could have been there that day.
Hello, my name's Eddie, and I'm here to tell you a story about the healing of my friend Alex. You see, Alex was paralyzed. He couldn't use his legs, so he had to be carried everywhere. He couldn't go down to the marketplace. He couldn't come to the ball field with us on weekends. Just couldn't do anything, and we included him in all our family meals because, like I said, he couldn't get his own food. He couldn't prepare it. So, he had to have help with everything. And don't even get me started on the outhouse, when that happened. He had special friends for that. But, life was hard for Alex. And it was hard on his family and his friends as well. Well, my friends and I, we heard on CNN that this guy Jesus was coming, and we heard something about it. We weren't sure it was fake news. Then we heard it on InfoWars. We knew it was real, so we knew Jesus was coming to town. And, we had heard all these stories about how he had been performing miracles and healing people. I mean, we heard that he healed a leper. And guys, I don't know if you know what lepers are or what it is and all about that, but you don't touch a leper. That's like a death sentence. But he healed the leper. We heard the stories that he did all other sorts of miracles and things. So we thought, man, if he could come to our town, we could get Alex to see this Jesus, and who knows, maybe it could help him walk again. And then we found out he was actually coming to our neighborhood, a house down the road. Our neighbor invited us to come and see this Jesus. So my friends and I, we got a plan together to actually bring Alex. And we knew it wasn't going to be easy because Alex, we didn't know if he'd agree to go. We didn't know if he'd say he didn't have the right clothes to wear. Didn't know what would he ask this Jesus for, how much would it cost, or would the neighbors even let somebody of Alex's stature in their house? But we thought it was worth the risk, so we made a plan. And on the day that Jesus was coming, we planned to get to the house early to make sure we got in. But by the time we got our camels parked and everything, man, there were so many people there, we couldn't get near the house. I mean, they were shoulder to shoulder. It was so tight. And then it happened. I had my MacGyver moment. And I thought, we can't get him in the door. We'll take him through the roof. So me and my friends, we got together. We got our Alex on the stretcher. After a bunch of grunting and horsing around, we got him up on the flat roof up there. And we started ripping plaster away. I mean, there was dust flying everywhere, mud going everywhere. And I thought, God, I hope our friends have good homeowners insurance. And then I thought, well, what's Jesus going to say? I mean, is he going to get mad that we're messing, we're interrupting his service? I mean, was he going to tell us to come back later? But when we finally got the hole big enough and we lowered Alex down and we saw the smile on Jesus' face, all our fears went away because Jesus knew we believed in him. And the first thing he said to Alex was that, my son, your sins are forgiven. And that kind of threw Alex at first, but deep inside he had already realized and started feeling that he was a healed man inside. And then as Jesus was wrapping up his service, he looked at Alex and said, rise up, take your mat, and go home. And I'm telling you, Alex didn't just stand up, folks. He leapt up. He jumped and was running around, hugging people, so excited because he could walk. And we were on the roof just amazed. We couldn't believe what we had seen. And we ran down and we grabbed hold of Alex as he came out the door. And we went home with a new man, and it was amazing. But I tell you this story to bring up one point, that I know each one of you here has a friend in your life that needs to meet Jesus. and that needs to start walking with God for the first time in their life. And I know it's awkward sometimes to invite a friend to church because they'll tell you they don't have the right clothes to wear. They may say, well, we don't know the songs they sing, or we can't find the building, can't find the parking place. There's all kinds of excuses. But if you will get involved and get creative in your friend's life, you can overcome those obstacles and get them here. Because, like for us, we knew it was worth the risk to get Alex to see Jesus. And it's worth the risk for you to bring your friends as well.
All right. Well, this is actually Chuck.
Not
So
Eddie.
Chuck, come on over here. Now, yes, thank you, Chuck. Now, we actually had Chuck do this right after we opened, about 3 years ago. We used this teaching tool, and it's interesting because since then, Chuck and his family have actually had an experience with a girl who came over from Germany as an exchange student, stayed with them, and in an accident, she lost use of her legs. She was paralyzed. And why don't you tell us what happened from there?
Well, the accident happened on February 20th, and she couldn't feel anything from her waist down. And we stayed with her at the hospital for, I didn't leave for at least a week. I don't know, but the doctors couldn't tell us why she couldn't feel her legs. They couldn't find anything to fix. But she couldn't walk. She couldn't move her legs. But she went back to Germany. They flew her back on an ambulance to let the German doctors take a look and see what. But same thing. And then on March 22nd, which is exactly 30 days after the accident, she woke up at 4 a.m, could feel her legs. By that afternoon, she was walking. And today, she's back with her gymnastics team doing gymnastics like nothing ever. I mean, it's just,
Man.
That's God. That's awesome.
Wow. So you guys and his family sitting over here saw it. Your firsthand was like for God to heal somebody. Now, this is extra fun, the first service, because it was surprise. So he's not surprised. Are they surprised?
They're surprised.
They're surprised. Okay. Because this week, I was communicating with Amelia through Facebook, and we got this idea that she could communicate with us by video. So take a look at this.
Guys, oh my god, I am so nervous. I am on stage basically right now, vision church. Oh my god, I'm mad, telling something. But I don't have this wise words, this bad hands, but I'm trying to. I just wanted to thank you that you guys prayed so much for me. I really appreciated it a lot. I never really said thank you, but I am so thankful. I hope you know that. Guys, I love and I miss you. But no matter how far you're away, we will always look at the same moon. But honestly, I'm not the same having seen the moon from the other side of the world. Gastonia changed me, and you too. You showed me how God can be and what great people God created. And you showed me the most important thing that, let me show you my little penguin, because this penguin is important. It says, Jesus loves me. And this is what you guys showed me. You had such a huge impact on my life. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Chuck. And woo, man, what a blessing to see what God's doing in that family and with Amelia and Julie and your girls. I'm glad we were able to surprise you with that. Well, we will post that on our Facebook page too if you want to share that with anybody else. It's something when you think about somebody who is paralyzed and gets healed. And I know Chuck was playing the part of a guy, but imagine what those guys went through that day. That their lives would never be the same. I mean, certainly, Alex, he got healed, but what even about the guys that invited him? The guys that saw it happen, the guys for the rest of their lives had been in the presence of the Son of God and saw what he could do. When you look in Luke 4 and you see the people were amazed at the power of Jesus and the authority in his teaching. And again, he had these habits of praying and talking to his Father, saying, Father, show me what to do. How do you want me to manage this opportunity of ministering to people? Well, guys, the Son of God, he's wanting to do the same thing in us. He's wanting us to see remarkable things. He's wanting to show his power. He's wanting to teach with authority. But we got to get people here. That's a part of our journey, is to invest and to invite So again, that core habit we have here of investing and inviting, is it really that important? Like Pastor Matt, we're big enough. I mean, we still got a couple seats left and we got 2 services. We don't need to grow much. Or, man, the people I know, they're busy. They don't need to come to church. Well, no, it's not about just coming to church, or it's not about adding more chairs or adding more services. This is about one person at a time helping people to experience the power of God. So when I think about being invited, do you like being invited like to a ball game or to a concert or, to go out to dinner and they say, I'm paying for dinner, you want to go? You love that kind of invitation. I think back to a couple years ago, a friend of mine named was Stephen, and he worked at Gardner Webb, and he said, hey Matt, Gardner Webb is playing at Duke. Do you want to go and bring your boys to Cameron Indoor Stadium? And, and I'd take a look at Cameron Indoor and say, I'd love to go. I would love that kind of invitation. Mitchell's like, I'd love to go. I'm a Duke fan. I'd love to go. So me and my boys accepted his invitation. We go there. We're sitting right behind the bench. The boys are like, oh my goodness, we're at Cameron Indoor. And we're like, Stephen, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'll tell you, that is just a fraction of what somebody feels when they get invited to church and experience the power of God. So we're all about that here at Vision. Let's walk through what it looks like. Because first of all, if we're being real, we got to find the problem. That there's a problem. There's a reason why somebody needs to come into God's presence. So let's think about it in terms of disease. Because if somebody has a physical disease, it's much more easily to notice they have a problem. If they got malaria or AIDS or some type of terrible disease like Ebola. Okay, anybody in here ever had Ebola? And you're like, good thing, because if he had Ebola, they'd be like, we're moving a little bit over. We're not sitting too close to the guy who has Ebola or had Ebola or even said Ebola. Because when I'm researching it, it says that 30 to 90% of people that get Ebola die. The average is 50. So you say, okay, that row, everybody's, half of them die. This room, everybody's got Ebola, half of them die. Man, that's a death sentence. If my friend had Ebola and I knew of a cure, man, I'm taking him to go get the cure. It's easy when you're thinking about a physical disease, but spiritually, we also have a disease. It's not as evident sometimes, because you think about in terms of eternity, our sin separates us from God. In our daily lives, our sin, man, it tears us up. The way we act, the way we think, the way we handle stress, the way our insides are wrecked by sin, you can't see it, but it's there as a deadly disease. That is the problem that we're dealing with. Okay, so number 2, we got a strategy. Here at Vision, we got a strategy. Our primary way to lead people to Christ is to invest, so say invest, and invite, so say invite. Get them here. Invest in their life. Get them here. That ties right in with our mission statement of leading people to Christ, helping them live out God's vision. Man, when that happens, when they come to Christ and catch that vision, it's unbelievable. Now, we didn't make this complicated. You're not going to our website and see like the 17-step plan to try to get somebody to Christ. You're not going to look at our a handbook or look in our lobby and see, oh my goodness, there's this big map, a blueprint of how to do it. It's invest and invite. We want to make it simple so that in your daily lives you say, okay, this is one of the habits of my church is to invest in people, is to care enough about people. I'm going to invest in them, and when the time's right, I'm going to invite them to church. Okay, so let me ask you this. If you are at Vision because somebody invited you to come, would you stand up? If somebody invited you and you came, stand up. Man, I love that. That's even more than the first service. Okay, so go ahead and take a seat. So you think about, what if none of those people were here? What if we didn't have Blue Crew? My goodness, if Kayla wasn't here, if some of these others who stood up, like, what if you guys hadn't been invited and they hadn't been invited? It all falls apart. Yes, people come here because they search on the web. Yes, because they drive by, or yes, because they just, they see something on Facebook. Those are all great too. And we invite. That's what we do. It's on each of us to invest and to invite. Me and Meg, back 20 years ago, somebody invited us to church. We were in an insurance office. You say, man, what connection is insurance and church? And to Tim Cochran, it was a huge connection. We sat there and he said, hey, Matt and Meg, have you guys got a church home? I mean, you got your kids? Man, who's helping you shape their values? what's going on in your life? I said, well, tell me about that. He said, come to church with me. We came to church with him. Game changer. Total game changer. So let's talk about that. Number 3. The reality, this isn't always easy. This is not easy because there's going to be things that the evil one tries to do to keep you from investing and inviting. If we're being real, there's Jesus and his opposition is Satan. Satan's doing everything he can to keep people from coming to Christ. Let's talk about then how we overcome these. Because if it's not easy, we got to overcome, number 1, obstacles. We got obstacles. Now, here at Vision, again, we try to make it easy for you. We want you to have invite cards so that when you're standing in the grocery store and you're starting to talk to somebody about church and they're like, and where is it? Or what time's it meet? Or what does it look like? And you're, oh man, what time of the services? I can't remember. You pull out an invite card. We have them at the door every Sunday. We have either the general Vision ones or series by series we have them. Take them, put them in your car, your pocketbook, your wallet, so that when you have that moment and information is potentially an obstacle, then you give the card. You give them the card. We also have other ways you can promote, like yard signs. Man, I love it. I walk around our neighborhood. We're up to 4 or 5 visionary families in our neighborhood now. So you laugh when you think about somebody walking their dog in our neighborhood, is walking around and they're like, Vision. Or another one, Vision. Turn another corner, Vision. They're like, what is going on with Vision? You never know. Is that the piece that gets them online? Is that the piece that talks to Doug Howland mowing his lawn and says, hey, what's up with the sign in front? He says, let me tell you about Vision, about what God's doing there. They're by the front door today. They're usually in the hallway every Sunday. Today, they're at the front door. If you don't have one in your yard, you take it, put it there. If you got a place at work, you can put it that's visible, put it there. Now, what I don't want you to do is take a bunch and put them all around town, because a couple years ago, they actually changed legislation in our town because we put so many signs out. Okay, we were putting signs and banners and all kind of stuff. People were hanging from telephone poles, and literally the city council put some legislation out that said, you got to take down these signs. Churches and organizations can't put them everywhere, so don't do that. But put them somewhere where you're allowed to put them. Grab a yard sign, put those out. Grab the window clings, put them on your car. Get a shirt, get a hoodie. Wear your Vision gear around town. That helps to overcome some of those obstacles. Now, what we also do is we design series with you and your friends in mind, so that when you ask somebody to come to church and they say, oh man, that's going to be boring, isn't it? I'm not going to understand. It's going to be way over my head. You say, no, wait a second. Hey, have you ever seen The Walking Dead? And in fact, we got any Walking Dead fans in here? Because we did that when we had some families that started coming to Vision just because they saw The Walking Dead banners around town. We said, yeah, come on in. We're talking about relevant stuff. I love seeing miracles. So man, we did a series on miraculous and said, look, God does miracles then. God's doing miracles now. Okay, let me ask you this. Has anybody in here got a relationship that at times makes you a little bit crazy? Those are being real? Yeah. We did a series on it. Yeah, she's pointing saying this one right here. So, you laugh, but honestly, we've designed series so it makes it easy for you to go sit next to somebody at work and say, how's that relationship going? Oh, it's tough. And come to my church. We're talking about relationships, or we're talking about the life you've always wanted. Doesn't that sound good to you? We design our series to help you overcome that obstacle and invite people. Now, okay, how many in here have a child age 5th grade or under? 5th grade or under? A lot of times, that is an obstacle. People say, oh man, I can't take my kids to church. They're going to hate it. I'm going to drag them to church. They're going to be, no, at our church, we got a family over here. What I've heard is one of their daughters wants to come to both hours so she can go to Trailblazer twice. Okay? Kids love coming to preschool and elementary here at Vision. Our students, if you're like, oh, teenagers, man, you can't get them in church. Judging by that picture, yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. We get teenagers in here for this service. They come back on every other Sunday night for food and music and small group time and teaching. We design our environments to help you invite people to Vision. We design men's events, women's events, even our Sunday service. Believe it or not, this doesn't just come together. We don't sit around like on Friday and say, man, what should we sing this week? What should I talk about this week? How's this going to fit in anything else? We've already got loosely our series plan for the rest of the year and the first series next year, because we want to design it with excellence so you can trust us when we say every Sunday is our best Sunday. That you bring your friend, they come that Sunday, you don't have to just wait for Easter or wait for Christmas. This Sunday, our best Sunday. We've worked hard to create an environment for you. Now, some other things to overcome is discouragement. Because you're going to have some times you're inviting that person, they're saying no. You're inviting them again, they're saying stop asking. You're inviting them again, they say like literally stop talking to me. And you're going to have discouragement, but you have to persevere. You keep loving on that person, inviting them to church. Another obstacle, honestly, is at times lack of belief. If we're being real, we're saying at times, God, can you really work in that person's life? I mean, that person that is so addicted, that person that has gone through so many relationships, that person that is so mean to me, can you really change them? And sometimes we back off from the investment, and we certainly back off from the inviting, but God says, no, get right there. Hang in there and overcome that obstacle. Keep investing, and in the right timing, you invite. All right, now number 4 is what I call the process. The process. It starts with believing that God can work in that person's life, and it starts with believing that God's got the power to work in amazing ways, bring people into his presence. We got to believe he can do that. Other part of the process is we have to care. And this is a big piece because if you're like me, life is busy and you got lots to do and kids to take care of and bills to pay and you get tired and you're like, sometimes I just don't want to care about anybody. I just don't want to care enough to have that conversation or to stop and listen. And Jesus says, you have to care. If you're ever going to invite, you got to start with an investment and you have to care. Because that goes back to the disease. You got to believe that at Ashbrook High School tomorrow, that you're going to sit next to somebody who's got the sin disease. And if nobody else cares about them, they're just going to keep down that path. You got to care about them. And that's part of the investment. We have to be intentional. Hey, at that high school, at that job site, have a card with you. Have an idea in your mind of how can I have a conversation and steer it towards something spiritual. This is not a hidden agenda. This is a loving agenda. It truly is, to be intentional. We have to create the environments. Now, certainly, we as an organization will do our part, but honestly, you're part of that organization. We laughed about singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Honestly, we need people with our preschoolers who will love singing with them. We need people shaking hands. We need people cleaning the church to say, we will create the environments so that when your friend comes, our church is on point and ready for them. And then last, but it really is first, is we have to pray. We got to talk with God about this. Ask him to work in that person's life. Ask him to work in our heart. Ask him to give us that opportunity to invest and then to invite. Now let me do this. This story in here, again, I love it. And I know Chuck, he played it out so well that we could almost imagine being there that day. And you think about, again, I said Luke 5 is one of my favorite chapters that I love getting in here and seeing the notes I have on this. And seeing about the power Jesus had and the authority he had. And I think about this story, and I take literally that Jesus prays for us. That if you look in John 17, it shows that Jesus prayed for all believers. That for generations, he was praying for them, saying, carry out my mission. Make a difference with this. And in Luke 4, when it said that Jesus went alone, he was in a solitary place and he prayed, here's what I think was happening. I think that Jesus prays for us. Because here's usually how I spend my day. I start my day off, I walk my neighborhood, and I'm praying through my day. That if I'm going to meet with Tommy, I'm going to be like, God bless Tommy. May we have a great meeting together, a great time together. Take care of him today. I'm walking my neighborhood. I'm praying for my neighbors. I'm praying for our elders. I'm praying for people at Vision. I think Jesus also prays for us in a similar way, that when a day starts off, maybe on that day with that story, that Jesus, he prayed for those friends. And he prayed for those guys and said, guys, we'll say Eddie, he said, Eddie, be ready for Alex. Don't get distracted. He said, make sure that you are ready with the camels and the whatever and the water to pick up your friend and get him to that house. Because earlier in Luke 5, the whole fishing story, I taught on this a couple years ago where here's what I think happened. I think when those guys got in the boat and went out at night and didn't catch anything, I think Jesus was on the shore praying about the fish. Praying with his power, saying, fish, stay away from that boat. You're like, why would he do that? He would do that because if you want to see a miracle, there has to be a drastic change. If they caught 10 fish or 20 fish that night, And then Jesus got in the boat and they caught like 100 fish. And they'd say, oh, that's pretty cool. No, they caught 0. Because Jesus, I think, imposed his power on those fish to say, in my time, you'll catch those fish. So Jesus prayed for those guys. I believe he also prayed for Eddie and those guys. So let's make this real. About a year ago, in May, and I'm going to bring up my friends the Rodericks again because I love these guys. There was a day about a year ago when my wife Meg, and this isn't the story about the pastor's wife, this is just about another visionary, because this is what visionaries do. She was going to get up to go to her job. And her job at Bit of Hope Ranch on that day was to run a field trip for about 100 kids and the teachers and their parents. And I think that Jesus prayed for her that morning. Now understand this. I don't totally understand prayer. None of us will in this life. But there's something about the fact that Jesus prays for us, and I think Jesus prayed something like this. I think he prayed, said, Meg, don't miss it today. He said, Meg, don't get so intent on the process and the stations and all the things you need to do. He said, Meg, make sure you're paying attention at one particular moment. Now, at the same time, I think Jesus was praying for Matthew Roderick. I think Jesus was praying and saying, Matthew, man, I know you love your family. I know you love your kids. In fact, I know you love them so much you're going to a field trip today. I think Jesus prayed and said, Matthew, make sure you're paying attention today. Make sure you're at the right spot in the right time. And he didn't even know it, didn't even hear it, didn't even think about it. But I think Jesus was praying so that at one moment in time on that day, outside the bathroom, that Matthew was there with his kids, Meg was there doing her job, and there was a short intersection. And if Meg had been like, I got things to do, places to go, Jesus said, no, right there. He said, in that moment, you be ready to meet a man you've never met before. And in that moment, you invest. And it was a short investment. 2 minutes maybe? 3 minutes, short conversation. That Meg said something like, hey, where you at? We got this ranch. And I think he was like, you ever hire jobs? We're new in town. And that phrase, and this is where you're intentional. You listen for phrasing that opens a door to invite. Meg said, oh, you're new in town? Have you got a church home? I think Jesus had been praying for that moment. And if Meg would have missed it, I don't think these guys are sitting here. If they're not sitting here, he's not sitting here. And I think in that moment of Meg and Matthew intersecting, Jesus sparked something where Matthew took that home. And 2 days later, they came to our church. And 7 days later, more of their family came to our church. And they've been inviting people, they've been loving people, they've been serving people. And I think about Luke 5 coming to life. In spiritually paralyzed people coming alive. This guy sings in our Blue Crew now. He's with Kayla there with the kids. They're going nuts with our kids, thinking, that is remarkable. So when you leave today saying, did we see remarkable things? I think we have. And I think about Jesus praying for you in your journey. And when I was unpacking this originally about being a game changer, sure, it's a game changer for Alex. He got healed that day. But what about for Eddie? What about for Eddie and his friends that were never the same because they had been used by God to invest in somebody and invite them and bring somebody to Jesus so that person could live out God's vision for their life? That is remarkable. So as we finish up, I want you to think about that bottom line, that God wants us to invest in people's lives and invite them to come and hear about Jesus. There is a disease that we are trying to overtake. This is how we do it. And my last thing for you, I got you this quote. It's from this book. It's called Love Does. And I like this book because it really changed my thinking that, I'm a doer and a checker offer and a lister. And this book is saying, no, actually, love doesn't just talk or accomplish all these things. Love does and truly cares. And listen to this quote. Bob Goff says, I used to want to fix people, but now I just want to be with them. And for us, in our busy days and busy lives and all these demands and all these things, God says, actually, just love people. And the way that looks here at Vision is that we invest and we invite, and nobody has to go through this thing alone. They don't have to be spiritually paralyzed anymore. They don't have to be alone. lonely, scared, they come in here, we help them find God's vision for their life. All right? Let's pray.